So Google wants all Android smartphones to become an earthquake detection system. And how is this actually going to work? Well, according to Google, Google wants to use the accelerometer on all the Android smartphones around the world. And by using the accelerometer on your Android smartphone, apparently it will be able to detect if there is an earthquake about to happen or something on the earth is not stable. And apparently they will be sending out notifications in the future if people opt in to do this. Now, according to Google, they are going to be sending out like notifications to people who want to opt in to this test if they want to do it. So it's not going to be a thing that is, of course, going to be mandatory by every Android user. And honestly, I am an Android user, so if Google were to send me a notification about this test or about this system they want to try to implement or try to arrange, honestly, I would be down for something like this because I think it is a smart way to actually better our lives, to make our lives a little bit more carefree. It's just overall a better thing for humans, and honestly this is the right thing to do. And it is kind of cool that they are using modern day technology in kind of a smart ways. A lot of times we just use our smartphones for our own convenience, but it's not really helping the world around us. So if we can combine all the Android smartphones around the world to actually get some kind of detection system for earthquakes, I think this would be honestly really cool. I'm still not really 100% sure how just the accelerometer in your Android smartphone would actually help detect earthquakes, but according to Google, this is something that is apparently possible. And of course, anytime you can detect something that of course is going to be life-threatening and could affect millions of lives out there, of course, this is something not to just take lightly. It's something to actually think about. And honestly, I really do think this is actually really cool just because I've never seen something like this, and this is how to use current day technology, whether it be smartphones, tablets, laptops, in a very cool way. And this could potentially save lives in the near future if this is actually implemented very well. Honestly, also, it just boils down to how many people out there are actually going to opt in for something like this. I feel like a lot of people out there may get this from Google and be like, no, I don't want to opt in on this because this is one more thing I have to worry about with today's society and today's companies. You can never trust what these companies are actually going to do. So if I opt into something like this, what could Google potentially do with my accelerometer, do with my smartphone? But you kind of have to keep in mind with current day companies and current day technology, no matter what you do, whether you opt into something or whether you not opt into something, a lot of times the companies are going to find a way to work around it. Or if you're using the internet anyway, for instance, you're going to be subjective to like people spying on you, privacy issues and things like that. So in my case, I would just honestly say just opt into it. There's no downside to it. I mean, it potentially could save lives, it could help people, and the company's probably doing some things behind the scenes anyway that you're not actually aware of. And even though it could be a lie, you know, a lot of these companies are just dishonest. I'm just pretty much keeping it real with you guys. Now, the next one is actually about Sony headphones. I talked about them in a previous video. I talked about how Sony was going to make the XM4 premium noise canceling headphones from Sony, and they are the cream of the crop. But I know not everybody out there can pay for the cream of the crop, especially in 2020 when a pandemic is going around. A lot of people are in really bad situations right now. A lot of people are struggling, and a lot of people can't get the XM4s, and the XM4s are some amazing noise canceling headphones. I would argue they may be the best noise canceling headphones money has to offer when it comes to noise canceling. But I just wanted to throw out some deals when it comes to the XM3s, the previous model of these headphones, because these are still the current headphones as we speak, as of the date of this recording, just due to the fact that the XM4s actually haven't released yet to the public yet, so you can't actually buy those yet. So you can still buy the XM3s, but right now, since the XM4s are literally coming out right around the corner, they're coming out in the next couple of weeks, I would argue and say get the XM3s because they are going to be cheaper, and you're not going to be losing all that much when it comes to the function and form of these, because these are pretty much still in the same design as the XM4. How much better is the noise canceling going to be on these? How much better is the sound going to be on these? All of this will still have to to be determined since these things haven't hit the market yet. You would have to do a test. But I think if you're talking about noise canceling headphones, even the current or soon to be previous XM3s are still going to be a headphone that are going to be still cream of the crop, and I still think they can compare to other headphones on the market, even though the XM4s are going to be coming out. Now, the deal that I'm actually looking at right now on the internet for the XM3s actually have these at $100 off, and with $100 off, it will bring the retail price of these all the way down to $250, and I really do think at $250 these are pretty much a no-brainer, and I really do think everybody should just pull the trigger on these unless you just want the best money can buy, and of course that would be the XM4. You are going to get some little nice quality of life improvements to the headphones, but besides that, it's not a major rehaul, which some people were actually hoping for with the XM4s. That's not the case. That's why I say these ones are much more appealing, especially since the XM4s are coming out. There'll be a lot of discounts on the market for these things. You can get these refurbished a lot of cases. You can get these brand new at a heavy discount and things like that, since they are going to be, of course, dwindling down the stock of the XM3s in preparation for the XM4s, and at $250 you will definitely not be disappointed with these, and these are a go for a lot of people who just want to save money and still want one of the best premium noise canceling experiences on the market. The XM3s are still something not to take lightly, even though they are a previous model. They're going to be amazing for what they are, and I just wanted to throw that out. If you're looking for deals on headphones, if you're looking for deals on noise canceling headphones, you want some of the best ones money can buy, there's still an amazing deal and things like that. Now, the next one is actually going to be about a game. Apparently, the brand new game called Fall Guys is doing extremely well. It said they racked up 2 million players on Steam after just 5 days, and honestly, that's some pretty amazing news considering that this game just came out. And on top of that, this game is actually a pretty unique game. It's not just another game that's been thrown out. If you never played Fall Guys is a battle royale, but it's not your standard battle royale. It's actually more on the lines of like something like Wipeout. If you've ever seen the TV show Wipeout, it's pretty much where you have an obstacle course in a lot of these different mini games. I think they have like 25 different like mini games or showcases you can play in this game, and basically you go around doing these challenges or doing these mazes like Wipeout, and this game can get very chaotic and very fun very fast, especially when you are competing with a lot of different people out there. I think this game is just a really good game that brings people together. People love seeing people fail in this game. People love the art style of this game. I think this really appeals to a lot of different people, and especially streamers. I can see this being super popular with the streaming crowd of people who stream games on the internet, because this game just screams like a streaming game, and I can see why so many people out there would actually want to play Fall Guys. And honestly, this is a game that's actually a fresh of breath air. When you think about it, the gaming industry is, like, for instance, so saturated with a lot of games, especially in the battle royale scene. You look at things like the battle royale scene, and the battle royale scene is so saturated with the same old battle royale games. Oh yeah, we have another battle royale, but it's a shooter, and we've had shooters for quite some time now, so it is always nice a new game comes out and wants to mix up the formula. And I think a lot of people agree, sometimes it is nice to mix up the formula and have something slightly different out there, since the gaming industry is slightly saturated. And yeah, it's pretty amazing that this game racked up 2 million players just after 5 days on Steam as a whole, because like I said again, this game is an amazing game for what it is. It's very simple in its principle. There's not a lot of controls to this game, but just the fact you can have a lot of fun with your friends, you can see if people can actually make it to the end of these obstacle courses. It's just overall a blast when it comes to video games, and I think this is honestly how you make a video game right. And yeah, I can see why so many people are actually gravitating to this game. The next one is actually about video game spending. Just after we talked about Fall Guys, video games are back in the news. It looks like people are buying video games at an all-time high in the US alone, and that's probably not counting worldwide sales. Of course, this year has been phenomenal for video game sales. Of course, the biggest thing to the biggest thing that really made people want to go out and spend as much as they do on video games this year is the fact that the pandemic is actually around, and the pandemic, of course, caused a lot of different people to stay indoors. And since you're stuck indoors all the time, a lot of people can't go outside. You get bored easily, and I guess people are so bored they're looking for new ways to entertain themselves, so they're going out and buying brand new video games, brand new consoles. Like, for instance, the Switch is on fire in 2020. Not only do a lot of people don't have one, they're stuck indoors, they're bored. A lot of people see that the brand new Animal Crossing came out, and since Animal Crossing is a good way to enjoy your time inside, because that game is a game that's all about like building your own life. It's just a perfect game for people who are stuck in this world of the pandemic. One thing that's very interesting to me is I still find it interesting that a lot of people are buying a lot of different video games, video game accessories, video game consoles, when there is a pandemic going on. You would think a lot of people just don't have the same money as they once did before the pandemic, and I'm actually surprised a little bit just due to the fact that you look at next-gen gaming. Next-gen gaming is coming out right around the corner, and you would think a lot of people would honestly want to save their money for next-gen hardware, because next-gen hardware is not going to be cheap. It's going to be relatively expensive when you have to buy this system, when you have to buy these subscriptions to play online, when you have to buy the games, when you have to buy all this stuff for next-gen gaming. You would think a lot of people would just, for instance, want to save their money, but that's clearly not the case here. You can see people just do not care. They're so bored inside their house. They're like, yeah, let's go ahead and waste our money on more video games, because that's all we really have to do in this time when we're so bored. So let's buy video games. But yeah, this is pretty amazing news that so many people are buying video games, and the total amounts keep going up and up and up and up and up, and they're breaking records this year for video game sales, and the video game industry is still booming. It's funny when we look at like this current gen, the Xbox One and the PS4 era. I know a lot of people were predicting that this era was going to be the last era of console gaming, and console gaming was going to dwindle down, and nobody was really going to care about consoles as we speak. But look at 2020, the gaming industry as a whole is booming, and console sales are on the rise, with things, of course, like the Nintendo Switch and other gaming hardware and stuff like that. So that's very funny that it's totally different than what a lot of people in the industry imagined 10 years ago when they thought gaming, traditional gaming consoles and things like that were out of the picture, of course. Now, the next one on my list is actually going to be about an e-ink tablet. It looks like a company wants to make an e-ink tablet. This e-ink tablet is going to be 10.3 inches, and there's not too many devices on the market that use e-ink technology. If you don't know about e-ink technology, e-ink technology is not really a good quality type of technology. It's a display type of technology, and basically what e-ink is, it makes everything on your display black and white, and e-ink technology has been around for a very long time, and honestly, it's not even good technology, because since it's in black and white, you don't get really rich colors, you don't get vibrant colors, you don't get HD and things like that. So it's definitely not the best type of screen you can get out there on the market. It's actually the worst screen you can get out on the market. But for things like reading, I would actually say that it is going to be a really good technology for reading, because you want something that's not going to be too harsh on your eyes. You don't want something that's going to be bright, going to be popping out and very vivid, because a lot of times when you look at displays and things like that, you can get eye strain, you can get just stressed out looking at these screens for hours on end. And what are you doing when you're reading? You're reading for hours on end in a lot of scenarios. So of course it's always nice to have a display that's not really going to strain your eyes or not really going to damage your eyes. So it is nice to have a display like this, and this is actually supposed to be a foldable e-reader, and the actual size of the screen is 10.3 inches. It is also going to be a flexible display at that, so it's going to be one that maybe you can fold. It does say it is a foldable, which is very interesting. If we look at the market for foldables in 2020, you can see that there is no big screen displays that are foldable. All of them have relatively been smartphone sized displays, so it would be very interesting for a company to come out and get a tablet-esque display to actually fold in half or fold in some form. That would actually be really practical. I really do think when it comes to foldable technology as a whole, it would be really cool to have something like a tablet be foldable. just due to the fact that, of course, tablets are something that are just very big in nature to begin with. So if you have something that is foldable, that's very big, like a tablet, I think it's going to be really more practical just because you can bring it around more easier if you can cut down the display of a big tablet, because tablets are relatively big and a lot of times you don't want to carry them around with you because they're a little bit too big. They're not as practical as something, of course, like a smartphone, which you can throw in your pocket a lot of times, and they're just more convenient. So I would love to see foldable technology get to the point where they're actually focusing on more of a tablet size, these big screens that you can fold in your pocket instead of having a small screen you can fold in your pocket, which those ones are already pocketable to begin with. So that would be very cool. The one thing you are going to be getting with e-ink technology, even though e-ink technology is worse than any other type of display, whether it's LCD, LED, OLED, AMOLED, mini LCD, the biggest benefit here is going to be battery life. So where you sacrifice in screen clarity and screen in the screen overall, you will get better battery life without a doubt. You can get days on end with e-ink technology. And if you're just doing things like reading, I still think it's a really good display for specifically reading, because you're just looking at text and you don't want to hurt your eyes again, and you want as much battery as possible. So I think anytime you look at something that is an e-reader, and most people are just going to be reading text, whether it's web pages maybe, or whether it's things like actually reading books or articles or newspapers, that's where I really do think e-ink shines. But outside of that, if you're doing anything like watching videos, looking at pictures and things like that, that's again where I really do think e-ink technology really falls flat, and that's where I think a lot of people shouldn't buy e-ink. I think for that case, it's just not worth it. So I can see why that technology never really caught on with modern day devices, because most people do a lot of things that do need colors, do need saturation. They want their displays to look as best as possible, and e-ink goes against everything that a modern day display does. But for this kind of implementation, I really do think it is a kind of cool implementation for what it is, and I really do think it makes sense here. And this display looks actually pretty big for what it is. Again, it is 10.3 inches, so it is considered in the tablet space, of course, with that display. Now, I'm not quite sure what else you can do with this e-ink tablet, of course. It looks like it's mostly for reading and things like that. You're not going to be doing all too much with it. I'm not even sure, honestly, what operating system this runs or anything like that. It looks like it's going to have it's going to be a Wacom e-reader, I do believe. I don't know the price of this. I don't know much information outside of that, but overall, it really does look like an interesting device, to say the least. Now, the next one is going to be about Microsoft's new Xbox Series X, because the Xbox Series X has pretty much been confirmed at this point. Of course, there were rumors floating around the internet that did say that there were going to be two different versions of the upcoming Xbox, the Xbox Series X and then an Xbox Series S. And the Xbox Series S was supposed to be the cheaper brother of the X, and we still don't know the price point of that thing and things like that, but we do know it is pretty much confirmed, because we do see a package here that does show a controller, and apparently this controller that I'm going to show you on screen right now is for the Series S and not the Series X. That is going to be the premium one, and this controller doesn't look too fancy at all. It pretty much still looks like your Xbox One controller. I don't really see all too many differences. Even the shape of the controller and the design of it really does mimic a Xbox One controller. The only thing I can see different on this controller compared to a maybe the Xbox One controller is going to be the fact that you do get a different D-pad on this thing compared to an Xbox One controller, which does have a modern D-pad, which this one looks like a totally different D-pad. You can see it here on screen. So that pretty much confirms that this is going to be for the Xbox Series S. The one thing I'm still very interested in seeing is how much is the Series S going to be. A lot of people actually said it could be as low as $200. And honestly, I'm very curious to see if it is $200. Honestly, keep your expectations in check. For me personally, I don't think this would actually be $200. That honestly just seems too cheap for what it is. Could it be $200? it could definitely be $200. It is possible. But if you go back to this generation and you look at the Xbox One all digital version, which they released a couple of years ago, which was pretty much an Xbox One S, but without a disk drive, that one didn't even go for $200, which a lot of people were predicting. Actually, Microsoft charged that above 200, and above 200, that product for almost everybody didn't make sense. You're better off buying an original Xbox One S or an original Xbox One with a disk drive, because you would be getting a disk drive and you weren't really saving money with that Xbox all digital console. So it's going to be curious to see what they price this. But honestly, after that console was released, I really don't see them charging $200 for this console. I guess the nice thing, regardless, if you do end up buying the Xbox One S versus the Series X, apparently the Xbox Series S. I said One S. DCC. The problem here is with the naming SKUs of the current gen consoles for Microsoft and the next gen variants of the Xbox. They're just very confusing consoles. We got the Xbox One S, we got the Xbox One X, we got the Xbox Series S, the Xbox Series X. You can see how many names they name these things. I'm not surprised that Microsoft was saying we have too many Xbox SKUs out there and so many people are confused at this point. Let's just fully cancel the Xbox One X, and that's pretty much what they did. They recently got rid of the Xbox One X. You can no longer buy it, or you can still buy it, but they currently don't manufacture it anymore. So whatever stock's left at retailers right now, that's all you can get for that console. But apparently, talking about the Xbox Series S, I want to make sure I'm clear here. The Xbox Series S, apparently with the Xbox Series S, it's supposed to be a system that's going to play all the next gen games, not current gen games, next gen games. So it's going to play all the same games that the upcoming Series X is going to be played, but just at different resolutions. Apparently, from what I heard, it's supposed to play games at 1080p to 1440p, whereas the Series X, of course, is more powerful, so most games will play close to 4K or at 4K resolutions with higher frame rates, because you are going to be sacrificing power. But at least, even though you are sacrificing power with the Series S, apparently you will still be getting the same games, because it does run on the same CPU and the same architecture that the Series X has to offer. So I think for a lot of people, that may actually be a very good buy, especially if you don't care about things maybe like ray tracing, or it'll probably support ray tracing actually, now that I think about it, but definitely not the higher frame rates for a lot of games, and definitely not the higher resolution for sure. But then it begs the question, why are you even buying that thing? Because it's kind of like, it won't even feel like a next gen system, even though you are playing next gen games. Because another reason to always get a brand new console or a brand new next gen hardware is to see how far technology has advanced with graphics and things like that. But it's kind of like, well, I'm not really getting a better experience than what I'd be getting on my Xbox Series X or my Xbox One S for the most part. So it's kind of like, why even buy it? But if it's very cheap, I understand the appeal to that thing, and I think a lot of people would actually want to buy that thing if it makes sense to them. And yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for today's episode. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from My Tech News, signing out.